This is an egregious violation. Look at this mess. My equipment is ruined because of your negligence. I demand this trench be filled by sundown. I woke up to a stranger pacing my yard with a measuring wheel. And she called it official HOA business. It was Brenda Sterling from 2 streets over, the one who reports kids for chalk drawings. She had the yellow wheel, a clipboard, and a smug smile like she owned my grass. She didn't knock. She didn't ask. She just walked in, rolled that squeaky wheel along my fence, and said my fence encroached by 3 inches into the HOA easement. 3 inches on a fence that's been there since before I moved in. I told her to leave my property. She pointed at her badge. It wasn't a badge. It was a keychain with the HOA logo. She said she was temporary compliance chair, and if I didn't move the fence, I'd get a fine every day until I fix my attitude. Then she took photos of my garden and my kids' soccer net. She even measured my mailbox. I felt my face get hot. My hands shook. I wanted to scream, but my son was watching from the window. So I took a breath and said, "Please get off my lawn." She smiled and wheeled off like she had just won a prize. I went to the next board meeting. The board looked bored before I even spoke. I explained the history. My fence matched the survey from closing. I brought copies. Brenda rolled her eyes and whispered to the president. I asked for the fines to be canceled and for her to stop trespassing. The president said, "We'll look into it," which is HOA for "we'll do nothing." A neighbor later told me Brenda is the president's cousin. Of course she is. The fines started the next day. $50, then another $50. Brenda posted a photo of my fence on the neighborhood app with the caption, "Some people don't care about rules." Neighbors who used to wave at me stopped waving. One sent me a private message that said, "Sorry, we can't get involved. Brenda scares us." I felt alone and stupid. I laid awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to my son breathe and thinking, 3 inches. 3 inches is going to make me move a whole fence. I pulled out my survey again. I noticed something. The HOA easement line Brenda loved to say was not an HOA thing at all. It was the city's drainage swale marked on the survey as owner maintained. The city encouraged homeowners to keep it clear so rain could flow. My fence sat right on my property line, perfectly legal. But right inside that line, the survey showed a little dip meant to carry water. A trench, basically. A trench I had never dug. An idea crawled into my head and smiled. I called the city's stormwater office. I asked about improving the swale for better drainage because our street floods every heavy rain. The guy on the phone was thrilled. He sent me a simple guideline. No permit needed for minor grading on your own property. Keep water on your side. Don't block sidewalks. Use silt fabric. Plant grass after. So I marked my property line with flags, and I took photos with the date on them. I printed a copy of the city guideline and put it in a clear folder. Then, on a sunny Saturday, I rented a small trenching tool from the hardware store. I set up cones. I put a caution work zone sign on my lawn like a tiny construction site. My neighbor across the street peeked out from his blinds. I waved. He ducked. By lunch, I had a neat trench, 12 inches wide, 8 inches deep, running along the inside of my fence, fully within my property. I laid down silt fabric. I kept the soil on my side. I followed every rule. Then I turned on my hose and filled it enough to test the slope. It worked. Water ran to my rain barrel like a little creek. It also turned the bottom into mud. Very sticky, very brown, very hard to escape mud. I didn't invite Brenda. I didn't have to. She smelled control like a shark smells blood. The next morning, she marched over with the measuring wheel, this time dragging to neighbors like backup singers. She didn't look at my flags or the sign or my printed city rules. She went straight to the fence and tried to roll the wheel along the line again. The wheel dropped into the trench with a wet slurp. Brenda did a strange little hop and landed with both shoes in my mud. She froze. The neighbors froze. I calmly stepped outside with my phone, recording. "You're trespassing," I said again. "Also, watch your step. This is a city-approved drainage improvement on my private property." She tried to yank her feet up. The mud had other plans. One shoe came off with a pop and disappeared. She squealed. The neighbors, one gasped. The other started laughing and then tried not to laugh and then gave up and laughed harder. More people came out with their phones. Someone yelled, "World's shortest moat." My son from the porch whispered, "Is she stuck?" I nodded. Brenda demanded I help her out. I told her I'd call the police for trespass and the city inspector for a property line check, which would look great in my video. She said I was harassing an HOA officer. I held up my folder. "This is the city guideline. Did you bring yours?" The police came first. The officer took one look at my flags, my photos, and my printed guideline and said, "Ma'am, you're on his property without consent." The officer helped her out of the mud. She left one shoe behind like a sad trophy. The city inspector arrived next. He checked my trench with his level and said, "Nice grade. This will help street drainage." He handed Brenda a pamphlet about not obstructing private property. He also told the crowd that HOAs can't override city drainage recommendations. Neighbors were filming from lawns and porches. Someone added slow claps. My across-the-street neighbor brought me a lemonade and said, "I've wanted to clap for years." At the next board meeting, I showed the video. The room was packed. People had seen it online already. Brenda tried to talk about community standards, but the president cleared his throat and said the board would cancel my fines, refund the charges, and remove Brenda as compliance chair, effective immediately. The room cheered. Brenda grabbed her bag and left. No wheel, no keychain badge, just muddy socks and a red face. After that, things changed. Neighbors waved again. Kids played soccer in my yard and I didn't get a single message about it. The street didn't flood in the next big rain. My trench did its job, quiet and legal. The HOA sent out a new letter saying board members must announce themselves and get consent before stepping onto private property. The police put a trespass warning on file for Brenda. She keeps her distance now. Every once in a while, she walks by and glances at the ground like the mud might reach out and grab her ankle. I didn't build a castle. I just built a little truth right along the line, deep enough to catch a lie when it tried to roll over me. Please subscribe to Karen Conflict for more stories like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.